Hi, I'm Laura Nelkin. I'm a knitwear designer. I live in upstate New York in the Finger Lakes region, and this video has tips and tricks for working the Laxo Cuff. The Laxo Cuff supplies were included with January 2023's Lola's Choice kit. That kit was for knitting the Laxo socks. The Laxo socks use a stitch that I designed called the Laxo Stitch that I originally used in a hat when my book Knockout Knits came out in, I think it was like 2012 or 2013. I have always wanted to put beads on this stitch, and I'm really excited to teach you how to do that. So the Laxo Cuff, to knit it, you're just gonna need a few things. You'll need some fingering weight yarn, you'll need about 7 or 8 grams of size 6 beads, and you'll need a tool for placing those beads onto your stitches. The Laxo Cuff, if we look down at the camera, starts with a little end right here that kind of increases out stitches until you get to the width of the cuff, and then you work the Laxo stitch with beads across the cuff, and then you taper down to the end, and then a clasp is attached on either end that's sewn down to the back so that you can put that cuff on and take that cuff off. That snap is a little button snap. It's a 7mm clasp. So without further ado, let's jump right into things that I think you need to know about starting the cuff off, and then how to work that Laxo stitch with beads. Okay, one thing I should mention before we go too much farther is that this video assumes that you have the pattern for Laxo Cuff. The pattern is available for purchase on my website and Ravelry, and if you are a member of January 2023's Lola's Choice, you got a download code for it. So let's jump right in with the cast on. I've already cast on 4 stitches onto my needle and purled the first row, and I want to show you how the first increase row works on row 1, and then how row 2 works with the integrated I-cord edging. And we'll work a few more rows of the beginning of this just so you see how I do the other increases as well. So I am going to knit the first stitch here. I'm on row 1, and now I'm going to knit into the front and back twice. And what that does is increase 2 stitches. There we go. Now I've got 6 stitches on my needles. I'm going to turn the work, and every wrong side row is worked so that the first and last 2 stitches are slipped purlwise with the yarn in front. And what that does is create an integrated I-cord edging. So this is row 2 right here. Bring my yarn to the front, and I slip those last 2 stitches purlwise. Now I'm on row 3, and on row 3 I use one of my favorite increases, which is a reverse yarn over increase, which creates a right leaning decrease on the right side of the work. It is like a 2-row increase. I've been using it a lot lately on shawls for shaping. So what I'm going to do is knit 2 stitches, and then the pattern says RYO, which means reverse yarn over. So I'm going to work a yarn over opposite of how I normally would. So the left leg is to the front and the right leg is to the back. And now I am going to purl 2 stitches. And I'm going to make a yarn over regularly, which means I've got the right leg to the front and the left leg to the back. And then I am going to knit 2. All right, now we're on row 4, and we're going to slip the first 2 stitches purlwise with yarn in front, and then that next stitch right there, I'm going to purl 1 through the back loop, and I'm kind of pulling down on my work a little bit as I stick the needle in from the back to the front, twisting that yarn over. And now I'm going to wrap the yarn around and pull it through, and what I've done is closed up the hole that yarn over would have made. Now I'm going to bring my yarn to the back, and I'm going to knit 2, and then I'm going to be at the reverse yarn over, and I'm going to purl 1 into that reverse yarn over, and what that does is close up the reverse yarn over, making a make one right on the right side of the work. And those last 2 stitches, I'm going to slip purlwise with the yarn in front. So that is the beginning of the tab for your Laxo cuff. The next thing that I get to teach you is how to work that Laxo stitch with beads. So let's jump right into that. Okay, let's work that Laxo stitch. I have a cuff on my needles where I've already worked the tab and 1 repeat of the Laxo stitch, and I'm getting ready to repeat rows 2 through 9 one more time. So I am ready for a row 2, which is a wrong side row, and I am going to slip the first 2 stitches purlwise with yarn in front, just like you're doing at the beginning of every wrong side row. And now I'm going to bring my yarn to the back, and I'm going to knit 2, and then I'm going to purl 2, and I am going to purl 2, wrapping the yarn 3 times. So I'm going to stick my needle in, I'm going to wrap the yarn around 2, 3 times, and pull the needle through so that I've got 3 wraps on that right hand needle. And now I'm going to do that one more time. What we're doing here is elongating the stitch so that we can put the beads on it in 2 more rows. And now I'm going to purl 2 and knit 2. And then I'm going to slip 2 stitches with yarn in front. And now I'm on row 3. And I am going to knit 2. And I'm going to purl 2. And then I'm going to knit 2. And now I'm going to slip those 2 stitches that have the extra wraps, dropping the extra wraps as I slip them, which elongates those stitches. And then I'm going to continue on to the end of the row. And now I'm on a wrong side row, and I'm going to knit the knits and purl the purls, slipping the first and 2 last stitches and slipping those 2 center elongated stitches at the same time. You can just follow along on your pattern as you are working this. Now, the next row, which is a row 5, we get to work the open stitch, and that has beads on it, and it is the first part of the Laxo stitch. It's super fun to work, and I'm excited to show it to you. So I am going to knit 2, and I'm going to purl 2. And now I'm going to slip the next 2 stitches on the left hand needle to the right hand needle. And then I'm going to take that next stitch and just drop it off my needle. And don't worry, it's just going to hang out right there because it's elongated. It's not going to go anywhere. And now I'm going to slip those 2 stitches back to my left hand needle, go and pick up that stitch that I just left at the front and put it onto the left hand needle. And now I'm going to knit 3, but before I knit that first elongated stitch, I'm going to grab 3 beads, and right now I am working with a crochet hook that is about 1 millimeter or 0.8 millimeters in size. It's very, very small. I'm going to grab that stitch that wants to have the beads, pull it up so the stitch is nice and tight, and then slide those beads down onto the stitch, and then put that stitch back onto the needle and take the crochet hook out. And now I am going to knit 3. 1, 2, and 3. There you have it, the first part of the open stitch. And the reason I call that open is because the stitches are opening and moving away from each other. And now what I'm going to do is slip that next stitch, leave it to the front of my work, knit the next 2 stitches, put that elongated stitch back onto the left hand needle so that you're grabbing it, with your crochet hook or a piece of super floss. And if you are working with super floss to place your beads, I do have, whoops, I can't talk and get beads at the same time. I do have a separate video for working with a piece of super floss if you've never placed beads with super floss before. But I'm gonna grab those 3 beads again and maybe not talk while I do that. And I'm gonna take those 3 beads, put them onto the next stitch, slide those beads down onto the stitch, put it back onto the left-hand needle, and then go ahead and knit that stitch. And now I'm going to work to the end of this row by purling 2 and knitting 2. And now we're going to set up for working the second part of the Laxo stitch, which has the across in it. So I am on the wrong side of my work. I'm going to slip the first 2 stitches purlwise with yarn in front. I am going to knit 2. I am going to purl 1, wrapping the yarn 3 times. And now I'm going to purl 4. And I am going to purl, wrapping the yarn 3 times. And then I am going to knit 2 and slip those last 2 stitches with yarn in front. Now let me just get myself a little bit more working yarn so I can finish this up. Isn't that looking so cool? This is really fun to do. I'm excited to see you all go stash diving and find other yarn and beads to do this with. So now we are on, let's see, what row are we on as I get all chatty with you? We're on row 7. I'm gonna knit 2, purl 2, slip that next stitch, dropping the extra wraps, knit 4, slip that next stitch, dropping the extra wraps, purl 2, and knit 2. Now this next wrong side row, very easy. You're working across in pattern and slipping those slip stitches. And now we are on row 9 and we're going to work the across stitch together. So I'm going to knit 2, I'm going to purl 2, and now I am going to take that next stitch, leave it to the front of my work, knit 2, go get that stitch that I dropped, put it onto my needle, and now I'm going to go grab 3 beads with my crochet hook. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to go into that stitch right there, slap 3 beads on it, put that stitch back onto my needle, and knit 1. And now I've got 1 more stitch to complete that Laxo stitch. I'm going to slip those next 2 stitches purlwise with yarn in back. I'm going to slip the next stitch, leave it to the front, put those 2 stitches back onto the needle. This is basically like a little cable without a cable needle. And now I'm going to take that stitch, put it back onto the needle, grab 3 beads, grab that slip stitch only, slide those beads down and onto that stitch, put that stitch back onto the needle, knit 3, and then I'm going to purl 2 and knit 2. And you're just going to continue and repeat that Laxo stitch for the size that you're making, and then work the tab on the other side of the cuff, and then stop and block it and weave in your ends And finally, what you'll do is turn your clasp over to the wrong side and sew with some coordinating sewing thread your clasp down to the wrong side of the cuff. So it's just showing a little bit on each end of the cuff when you go to put it together. One thing I realized that would also be really cool on this cuff is I do have clasps that I used in the Kairos cuff that was a Lola's Choice kit from quite a while ago now. And those clasps would look really cool on this cuff as well. So that is another option if you have any of those in your stash. You could use one of those Kairos clasps. I'm going to be doing that on mine because I really like how the Kairos clasp kind of echoes that Laxo stitch right there. So definitely let me know if you have any questions. I am happy to help you have success knitting your Laxo cuff. Feel free to subscribe to my channel. I have plenty of other tutorials. I am happy to knit and learn with you. Happy knitting.